So good afternoon, and thank you for coming back after lunch again. Now, I did most of the new emerging therapies in psoriasis yesterday, so everything else we're going to do it today. So it's a pretty heavy agenda. I'm going to go a little bit fast. And my conflict of interest has not changed since this morning or yesterday. It's fast, though. It's an ever-changing thing. Slide. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my view from Kentucky, how I see things. And it's a little bit different than the rest of the country, so bear with me. We are famous for Kentucky Derby. We are famous for the race horses, but we're also famous for other things. This is what we buy as a gift for Christmas time. So, having said that, being from Kentucky, you know, I take my kids to New York City so they learn some nice things and different things, I should say. And the first thing when we go to New York, I put them in the subway. I actually put them one stop and pick them another so that they can handle how to get on the subway alone. What's the first thing you see when you get on the New York City subway? Jonathan Zizmore, MD, right? When I came to this country back in 1980, that's the first thing I saw in the subway. That's how I decided I want to be a dermatologist. So, the news was in New York Times about a week ago that he's retiring, which is no big whoop, and his house in Bronx is for sale, or has gone into the contract for $3.1 million, which is not a big whoop. The interesting part is the commentary from New York Times that all those pimple removals add up. This is how the rest of the world sees us. This is the perception we have in dermatology. This is from the press, this is from the public, and I am sure it's from the third-party payers. Unless we change this perception, especially for acne and rosacea, we're going to be in trouble from now on. Having said that, let's move on. What's new in acne treatment? And we'll start with the first question. Which of the following had a significant population of severe acne in clinical trials? Fixed combination of 5% benzoyl peroxide and clindamycin, fixed combination of 0.3 adapalene and 2.5% benzoyl peroxide, tretinoin microsphere 0.04%, or fixed combo of 5% benzoyl peroxide and erythromycin gel. And the winning numbers are no double chats. I know we're in Florida. So the answer is basically, wow, most of you got the right answer. It's the new product, and it is the new 0.3 adapalene and 2.5%. Now, before I go even tell you about the product, I just want to show you a couple of pictures that will tell you actually, I think one picture is worth 1,000 words. It will tell you about the power of this drug. It's a topical, remember, it's only once a day. And we already had in the market 0.1% adapalene and 2.5%. So this is the forte version. Just by the name, it's pretty strong. And you can see it includes a lot of severe patients. 50% of the study population was severe, 50% was moderate. This is IGA of severe, and basically in 12 weeks, that patient became almost clear. And that's a pretty impressive result over 12 weeks. One thing I want you to remember, when you look at this IGA scale, it's a very difficult bar to achieve that was put up by FDA. They have to skip 2-grade improvement, and they have to be clear, almost clear. Not it's and or, but both. It's a composite score. So if you start severe, you have to become almost clear at least, and that means you skipped already 3.3 grade improvement. If you start moderate, you have to be at least almost clear, and you have to have 2-grade improvement. How about this patient? From severe to almost clear again. Those are, you know, pretty severe patients. When you look at them, you almost want to start them on Accutane. You look at here is the patient population. You can see that they had 50% severe, 50% moderate. Mean lesion count, inflammatory lesions was about 38, and non-inflammatory was about 59, almost 60. Average lesion count close to 100. This is one, and I do a lot of clinical studies, but this is one of the few acne studies that actually we had such high lesion count numbers. And what was the result? The inflammatory lesion count reduction was 66%. Now, this is on the overall population, both severe and moderate patients. What's impressive here, when you look at the severe population, it's 72%. The drug almost works better, much better on severe patients. 72% lesion count reduction versus 60-something. So pretty powerful drug, hence the name is Forte. So when you look at the severe patient, here's another picture. Now this is a failure. But you know, this is almost an Accutane patient. You're treating this person once a day, monotherapy. Once a day, monotherapy, and they become moderate. So that's actually a 2-grade improvement. Remember the scale I showed you? From severe to moderate, it's actually a 2-grade improvement, but it's still a failure in the eyes of the FDA because they didn't hit the criteria of clear, almost clear. But if this patient is in my office, they're gonna be very, very happy with the results. How about this one? Severe patient, again, at the baseline. By week 1, he looks good. By week 12, he is mild. He didn't make it. He's almost also a failure. But he improved 2 grades already, but he didn't make the next cut, almost clear, so he's a failure. But if you look at this patient, actually, there aren't that many active lesions. It's mostly scarring. The problem with the IGA scale, it's an overall impression. It's very, very subjective, unlike the lesion count. When it's objective, you basically count the pimples. But here, there is no counting. You walk in, you look at this patient, you make a decision, moderate, mild, severe. And most of that decision-making is done before counting the lesion. Actually, FDA tells us you cannot count the lesion. You have to do the IGA first, then you count the lesion, because otherwise you will be biased. So this is a very subjective measuring. And when you look at every acne study, not only in this drug, the IGA success always trails back the lesion reduction. Lesion reduction, you have 60–70% lesion reduction, and then you look at the IGA success is 28, 33, 32%. So it's almost 1/3. So there is a big problem with the scale and the way we do it, but that's the way it is, that's the way it is. And actually there is a new article just got published this month. I am one of the authors. We did it with Linda Steingold and Jerry Ten from Canada about this problem and how we can, actually not about how we can solve it. There isn't much we can do. That's what FDA wants, that's what FDA wants. But at least to create awareness that there is a lack that IGA always is behind the lesion count reduction. Here's another picture here. This guy looks really good. It's almost scarring at 12 weeks, but it's still a failure. He's mild, and he didn't meet the criteria for clear or almost clear, and he began severe. So if he's a real patient in my office in the clinic, not a study patient, this kid would be very, very happy. And then hopefully a couple of months later, you send him to Dr. Cohen or to Dr. Winkle, they're gonna fix his scars, and he's gonna look good. But mostly what you see is scarring here. But it does affect, it does have a negative impact on our impression when you do the IGA. When you look at this patient, the scarring does affect our decision-making process. Moving on from one spectrum to another, now we have over-the-counter acne medications that are pretty effective. And this is actually a combination of LHA and micronized benzoyl peroxide. As we all know, benzoyl peroxide is a great antimicrobial. It's a great anti-comedogenic, anti-keratolytic, as well as anti-inflammatory. So benzoyl peroxide does a lot of the heavy lifting in the acne treatments. You heard this before for a long time. It's nothing new. But you go and buy the benzoyl peroxide from Walgreens or CVS, it's going to sit on the skin. It's going to crystallize. It's not going to go anywhere unless you have a nice vehicle. Vehicles make it and break it. You don't have the nice vehicle. That benzoyl peroxide is going to irritate the patient. So we need nice benzoyl peroxide vehicles that will penetrate, that will go to the pilosebaceous unit where the action is. So in this case, you have a micronized benzoyl peroxide where the